It's Monday on Daily Delivery. Michael Rand here. Patrick Reusse with me as usual. Patrick, we got plenty of local stuff to get to, but it's pretty obvious. We will start with the Super Bowl. Wow. I don't think I saw that one coming, even though maybe we could have seen, Eagles pass rush being a problem for Patrick Mahomes. But, man, that thing was, 34-0 before Kansas City even got on the board late in the third quarter. It was a good old-fashioned Super Bowl blowout. We haven't had a lot of those lately.
No, we haven't lately, and it was old-fashioned and probably one of the most shocking sporting events of my long life. And I kind of thought, I was with everybody else, Patrick will have a chance to win it in the last 3 minutes. It'll be a 3-point game. I've never been a big Jalen Hurts fan. It was the most incredible thing is that they ran through the Chiefs offensive line like it did not exist, and they never blitzed the entire game.
Exactly.
It was 4 guys up front just running right past them. It was at the end, or by the middle of the third quarter, I was saying, this is a worse performance than the Vikings put on against the Rams. This was unbelievable. It was awful. Mahomes was awful, but they almost killed him, and it was an utter and complete mismatch. Didn't they have? Now I'm not looking at studying the game. I'm laying on the couch by myself watching it half the time with the sound down because I don't want to listen to Brady. But did they have like 38 yards with 5 minutes to go in the third quarter or something like that? They had total yardage. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I think it was after Philadelphia's last touchdown, or the one that made it 34-0. I think they said, Kansas City hasn't even crossed midfield yet. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, my gosh.
Well, yeah, they had the one pass play that was called back with a stupid, penalty.
Right.
The officials started off having a worse game than the Chiefs, and then they kind of calmed down. NFL officiating drives me crazy because it has such a big impact on the game. But in the end, it had no impact on last night.
No,
it was just a physical beating of incredible proportions, and they came in obviously thinking if we stop Barkley, we can stop the Eagles. So they stopped Barkley. And even when you're rushing Hurts, one of the most mobile quarterbacks there is, right? Doesn't somebody have to stay in the middle of the defense to try to tackle? Every time he broke it out of the pocket, he had 15 yards of wide open spaces. And it was an awful performance by the Chiefs in all ways. And, they were all this year, somehow they kept, what were they were unbeaten 13-0 or something. Didn't they get to 13-0? But they were snaking out games at the end. They were 12 one-score games or something, and they were getting carried by their defense. Their offense has been shaky. Travis Kelce's his favorite clutch receiver, and Travis can't move anymore.
No,
and he got a bunch of wide receivers that are awful. And when they were not in the game, but when they were still with a chance to avoid embarrassment, Hopkins drops the ball down in the territory, and it was incredible. Andy was standing there on the sidelines looking at the sheet, going, "I got nothing."
Right. Well,
it was a absolute beating, and the Eagles, they were 2-2, right? 2-2, and they haven't lost since. Is that right?
I think that's right. Yeah, they haven't lost since week 6 or something like that.
And those idiotic Philly fans wanted to run Nick Sirianno out of town last year, right? And early this year.
Even this year, they were mad at him at a certain point. It was they were losing. It wasn't looking the way they wanted to, and then there was the schism even when they were winning between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, and it just didn't look right. But talent is still a pretty big deal. We make a lot of coaching, but talent will win a lot of times.
A great defensive line and a great offensive line are two good things to have. That's the way it works there. They've devoted a lot of their building to their two lines, and they obviously did put together a team that just kept getting better, and they didn't really get many big injuries either. That's part of it. They ended up healthy at the end, so they stopped Barkley and did him no good at all. It was just a shocker. I was having lunch with my son Chris, who's he doesn't play fantasy football anymore, but I think he was running a league when he was about 10 or something, and. He said, "Who do you like?" And I said, "I kind of like the Chiefs at the end." And he said, "Eagles are a way better team. I should have listened to them." So they certainly were that yesterday. And, this was definitely the year that Buffalo should have beaten the Chiefs. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and, the Ravens probably should have beaten.
Yes.
Probably should have beaten Buffalo along the way, too. Like, there was definitely a better team from the AFC talent-wise that could have given Philadelphia a better game, as it turns out. But the stat you mentioned that everybody else was talking about too, post game, way post game, the 42 dropbacks and no blitzes, and we make a big deal about Flores here and all the blitzing they got to do, but that it tells you if you don't want to have to blitz, if you can rush with 4, Patrick, and get the kind of pressure they did and play. 7 men in coverage. I think they played almost exclusively zone coverage too. So Mahomes didn't have anywhere to throw the ball if they're getting that much pressure, and there's 7 guys back there.
Isn't this the Ed Donatel defense? Isn't he a Fangio guy? Wasn't he a Fangio guy?
Yes, he absolutely was.
Ed Donatel defense. I guess when you play the Ed Donatel defense properly, it's not as bad a defense as we thought it was, right? Right. Maybe we should bring back Ed and Flores.
Well, no, let's.
And I guess you got to get the defensive line. But look at the defensive line the Vikings had this year. They had, they ended up having a hell of a defensive line, but they still blitzed a lot to make it to put the pressure on. But this was, poor old Vic up there. Didn't he retire and then come back or something?
Yeah. When the Vikings hired Donatel, I think they had wanted to hire Fangio, but it didn't work out. But something like that. But yeah, they called him back, and here they are. You're right. It's a good point. We make fun of Ed Donatel. I've made fun of Ed Donatel plenty for how poor that season was and how it ended, and his little phrases before the playoffs, sounding like a used car salesman, clothing salesman. You're gonna like the way we play. It's our time to shine, stuff like that. And then give up 31 points to the Giants. But yeah, if you've got the personnel for it, the thing the Vikings don't have is interior guys. They just don't have anybody who's
that's true,
collapsing it from the inside. They got the outside guys, but they don't have.
They were collapsing it from everywhere. It was unbelievable. There was right off the bat. There's a guy Sweet is sprinting at him with the first play of the game. He's dang near getting killed. It was Patrick kind of sitting over on the bench there early in the fourth quarter with this smirk on his face, like, we're going to have to do something. We're going to have to make some changes for next year because they rode defense all year.
Yes.
Basically pulled out a lot of games. They were the last team in the league to get to 30 points or something. They never got to 30 or
that's right. They didn't have a lot of explosive plays either. They were just kind of a dink and dunk their way down the field.
It wasn't the problem yesterday. They're going to have to spend all their money on their line, but they got to get somebody for them to throw to, too, for goodness sake. Yeah. The collection of receivers is a joke. And receivers are the easiest thing in the world to find. To me, there's thousands of them. Just get 4 that are pretty good and let's go. But it was. I got to tell you, I was flipping channels the second half. I watched a little of something and came back. It was as you said, it was an old time Super Bowl where they were over at halftime. So, is this true? By the way, somebody texted this out. Our Vikings never scored in the first half.
I think that's true.
their
Never
four
scored in the
Super
first half of
Bowls?
the Super Bowl. I think that's true.
Yeah,
I think I've heard that before.
Somebody sent out the scores, and they sent out the 16-0, 17-0. I know that Miami was 17-0, but they just got killed that day. But the worst was the Pittsburgh one, which was in
Right.
New Orleans at Tulane Stadium,
right. You're
where
right.
they trailed at halftime 2-0. 2-0.
2-0.
That's the defense that held Pittsburgh to 2. Well, they held them to 0 basically
Right.
because it was a safety, and they held them to 0, and they were still behind at halftime against. And that was a Pittsburgh team that was not fully formed as yet.
No.
That was the young Pittsburgh team that was kind of had a bunch of old vets, and they hadn't gotten the greatest collection of athletes ever assembled by then, and they still managed to. What was it, 16-6 or something like that?
16-6, yeah.
Yeah, that was an awful game. Cold, miserable day in Tulane Stadium.
Really?
It was awful. Hung over to the teeth. It was no good at all. Those are
the days.
That was back in my drinking days, and New Orleans was not a good place to go to. No,
I can't imagine. New Orleans in the 70s
well, not good, not good. I always said, now, the bad thing about being in New Orleans is they don't make you stop drinking. If you want to keep drinking, you can just keep drinking. The Bourbon Street bars closed at 4, but the hotel bars were 24 hours. So
That's amazing.
You stumble back to the hotel, then you can still drink if you wanted to. I can't say I really miss those days. I can't say that. So.
No.
I did get a good column out of that years later when I wrote when Lavelle was going there for the winter.
Oh, right. I remember that.
I wrote a column from Uncle Pat about watching what he's got to watch out for. So.
Was that the trip and place where you tried to get the wake up call, but it was already late in the time you got the wake up call?
That was a baseball winter meeting. Yeah, I called
okay.
it a 7:30 wake up call, and she said, "I'm sorry, sir, it's 7:45." So, I said, "All right, well, let's change it." That was so long ago, Mike. You could just change your flight and go out and fly out a different flight. Not like now. If you miss your flight, it costs you thousands of dollars. So.
Right.
Yeah, it was. Do you think the ratings fall off in a game like that? The second half?
Probably.
I think so, huh?
Yeah, I mean, my son, I was kind of watching it mostly by myself. We don't have a lot of sports fans in the house, but my son was kind of checking in on it, and he'd come over and he'd say, "They still don't have any points?" I'm like, "Nope, they still don't have any points." So he's like, "Has anybody ever scored 100?" I'm like, "No, nobody's ever scored 100." But
not lately, no. Although we did have an NFL championship game in the 40s when the Bears edged the Redskins 73-0.
I saw that. Remember that? Yeah, 73-0. That's all. That was all.
Yeah. So that was that was a Bears team that believed in offense.
Right.
About 2 years later, they just gave it up and never played offense again for
never again.
70 years later.
They're going to try this year with the guy from Detroit, Ben Johnson, right?
Yeah, that's a different way for them to go, for sure.
Maybe that'll be the guy. Who knows?
And the guy from the kid quarterback from the Eagles is going to be the Saints coach. Huh?
Kellen Moore sounds like. Yeah.
Kellen Moore's already signed up.
Sounds like
he got ran out of Dallas, didn't he? They didn't like him.
I think so. I don't know. But I don't know why they got rid of him.
Right-hand man or something. McCarthy was calling the plays. So
yeah, maybe he wanted more of a chance there. But yeah, it didn't seem like he was the problem last year when they lost in the playoffs, like 48 or 2 years ago when they lost like 48 to something. To Green Bay.
Well, yeah, I was trying to think of I guess the greatest blowout I covered was in San Diego when Denver was out in front, and then Doug Williams and Washington scored 35 points in the second quarter.
Yes.
Remember that one? I can't remember.
Yes.
You were probably 5 when that happened. But
I remember that. I remember that game though.
Yeah, the Elway game, and Denver was like out in front 14-0, and then Doug Williams got you know, 35 points. It was just
Yeah.
he'd drop back and he'd have his choice of like three wide open guys
Right.
that throw touchdowns. It was unbelievable. That was one of the luckiest days of my life. I'm getting pushed into the underneath that San Diego Stadium. Jack Murphy was totally inadequate for a Super Bowl ever. And this was back when every newspaper sent two guys, and there were hundreds of us, and we get pushed. They open up this cattle car door. They all come pushing in there, right? And it's everybody's pushing. I get pushed. Me, even at my size, get pushed to the side, and the guy standing next to the wall is Eddie Robinson,
Oh, geez.
Doug Williams' coach. And I'd done a piece on Eddie 3-4 years earlier at a game, so I knew him. So while everybody else is running around fighting, I get Eddie there for 10 minutes talking about Doug Williams. I said, that was a gift from God right there. Anyway.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, but this one, for all of another wildly successful NFL season, they end up with a clinker. Oh,
yeah, they did. Yeah, they
wow.
did. They did, but, maybe they were the Eagles got a few calls. Maybe they were very eager to dispel the notion.
Yes, that's right.
They were pro Kansas City.
Yes, right off the bat, you called that one and you said, "Oh my, they're gonna try to win again." I never bought that, by the way.
Me neither.
But I think it's just bad officiating. The idea that it's 50-50 here, I'm going to throw the flag. That drives me crazy.
Right.
Right. If it's 50-50, keep it in your pocket. But
100%. 100%.
That's not the way it works anymore. So, and then nothing can stop the machine. No, when we come a lousy Super Bowl, we're now going to have games next year in Brisbane. And
Brazil?
They're going to make the Rams Brazil. They're going to make the Rams open in Australia next year. What do you do? Do you get your bye week 2 then, or what? That's a long trip.
Maybe, I don't.
Even though you're not flying commercial, that's a long trip. I got to tell you.
That's a good point. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a Saturday game, so that you get like an extra day to get back. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know.
Maybe they could do it on a Saturday or something, or maybe a Thursday.
Who knows?
Maybe a Thursday.
Yeah,
night,
could be a Thursday night game. That would make a little bit more sense. Then they have a few extra days. But I don't know. They're trying to go everywhere. They're trying to be everything. But they're winning right now. Guy who's not winning, Patrick. You wrote about the Gopher men's basketball team, Ben Johnson. That was a pretty lousy performance against Illinois. Every subsequent game, I know they beat Penn State the other day, so they've had a win since then. But every subsequent, as we get further removed from that weird 3-game winning streak in the middle of the season, it becomes more of an anomaly. It
is like one of the oddest thing ever. But again, talent-wise, I think the Illinois team is the best team they've played. But Illinois,
they're very good.
They're all mad at Underwood because they're only 8-6 now in the Bit League. But they got all these young Europeans and foreign players from all over. But the Gophers, I mean, you can't stop anybody, but they can't rebound. There's rebounding was awful. The first half, it had to be 2-1. Every time Illinois missed a shot, they just grabbed the rebound and laid it back in. It was brutal. They came out and, as I said, we looked pretty good for the first 2 minutes. We made 3 threes right off the bat. Look, here we come. Look out. That was it. Boy, they were awful. And they might have had 10,000 in there. They announced 11 something, and it was a bigger crowd than I've seen in there lately, but I don't know. I just think I think it would be really stupid if we spent $1 billion and, hopefully most of it coming from whoever ends up owning the Timberwolves for a stadium, for an arena downtown, and didn't put the Gophers in that. Maybe have a smaller one on campus for the other sports, but to keep playing whatever it costs to maintain that dump year after year after year. It's 100 years old in 2028. You get a new arena downtown, Louisville. They moved Louisville out of Freedom Hall and they played in now they play in the Yum Center downtown.
Right.
And students still go to the game. They don't go to the game like they used to because they're terrible for the last 2-3 years.
Right.
But it's it's not like the youth is landlocked on campus and they can't just get off. They can't get off campus to go somewhere. Half of them live downtown now, and live in various places. And I just think it would really be stupid to keep playing in that old dump if you got a brand new arena 4 miles away downtown. So
yeah, they got a lot to. They got a lot to sort out, man. They got that.
They do.
They're in such a weird spot. They're not good. They're not competitive. They were. I mean, they got better last year, and then they lost all those guys. So you feel bad for the situation, but they got to figure out a way to keep up because if they don't, I mean, this is going to become the norm. This is going to become the kind of season that they're just accustomed to having if they're not able to fix and change this.
At this moment, this is one of the 3 or 4 worst jobs in the Big Ten by far.
Yeah.
You don't get any money. You got a terrible stadium. You're coaching for 4 years. You got a 4-year contract. You're building. Your 3rd year is good. Everybody leaves. You end up with Dawson Garcia and a bunch of strangers. It's which should prove to you that they don't have any money. They're inadequately. They're not made for NIL times. That's
not right now.
The problem. And I'll tell you one other stupid thing they do.
Please.
Is they set the stage for being ignored completely with their non-conference schedule that they play at home. Nobody ever gets in the habit of going to a game because who's going to go watch North Alabama? They should play South Dakota State, North Dakota State, and St. Thomas. Game about 10,000 apiece. And if you get swept, if you get beat, they had a what?
Who are you fooling?
Yeah, who are you fooling? That's what I'm saying. Who are you fooling by, hey, we're 10-1 in the non-con. Yes, okay. Why didn't you just play St. Scholastica? Because there's no difference here. So, the idiotic schedule, the no attempt of, how do you build up any interest when one of your non-conference games comes on TV and somebody's watching it and you can see there's 3,000 people there. So
yeah,
it's just, I don't know. It's a mess, and I think Johnson's gone now. And
I do too.
But
who are they going to hire though?
Yeah, as I said, I'm looking, and Nico's the name you hear. Nico Medved. He got a little connection here, and blah blah blah. Well, I watched him play Patino the other night, and he loses by 22. How about bringing back Patino? I was not a big Patino guy. You could bring Patino back now; he'd be heroic.
He's on the rise again.
Yeah,
he's on the rise again. He's
killing it in the portal. He's killing it in the portal. Mashburn Jr. left after he was going to play season 12 in. I think he's at Pitt or someplace, but he brought in all new transfers. He's 12-1 in the Mountain West, which is a pretty good conference. So. I was not a Patino guy, but he could come back now as a conquering hero compared to what's going on since he left.
He'd be a pretty good coach for the portal too, right? He seems like he always had those connections.
What I'm saying. He's killing the portal. He basically, I got a friend of mine, you probably know who it is, who's an official, and he sees Patino all the time, and Patino says, I'm done with high school kids. I'm in the portal every day. He said, I'm looking in there every day to see who's in there.
Well,
and that's reality, I mean,
now
Illinois' got all these hotshot freshmen. They're going to have none of them back next year. They're either going to go to the NBA or somewhere going to come in and bid more money to. They won the Big Ten title last year and made it to the Final 8. And they got like 2 reserves back from that team now. They just all left. I mean, Shannon went to the NBA, but It's
Yeah, if you're gonna.
it is yeah. Oh, it's just I don't know. It's just it's just irrelevant right now. Gopher
Yeah,
basketball.
it is.
The hockey made the comeback. Now hockey, it's easier to make the comeback. You're one of the powerhouse programs in the of a very minor number of teams,
Right.
comparatively speaking. But hockey had this problem, 5 years ago? 4 years
Yeah.
ago, the students stopped coming. They played Michigan in a playoff game. They had 1,800 people
Yes.
there. Now they're sold out again. The students
I
are
know.
back, but
So it's possible. It's possible to come back, but
I don't think in that dump it is. So I
no,
don't. It's too hard to work.
it
Well, the
is.
other thing is television. I mean,
Yeah.
any game you want to watch is on television. It wasn't that way back when they
No.
used to fill the place. And so.
No.
Watch your dreams and savings grow with Royal Credit Union's 4.25% annual percentage yield 12-month certificate. Open now at any Royal office or online at rcu.org/certificate saver. Early withdrawal penalties could reduce earnings and principal. APY accurate as of 2/1/25. Insured by NCUA.
Gopher women, Patrick, managed to win in that building yesterday, right? Beat Indiana. They needed that one because they'd been playing tough teams. They had that trip to play UCLA and USC, and that is a murderer's row trip this year in women's basketball. They were ranked 1 and 4. They were ranked 1 and 4 at the time when they went to play those teams, and then they lost to Iowa.
Iowa Southern Cal was supposed to be all Juju, and she's not her leading. When you go out there, she's about their third leading scorer. And then UCLA is, I watched quite a bit of the UCLA game. We surrounded Betts in the post and held her to no points, but she just kept throwing it out for wide open threes, and they ended up getting blown out. Then they stunk it out against Iowa, although they did come back a little bit at the start. They were terrible. So they yesterday they beat Indiana, which is a mediocre team, but
they're okay. Yeah, they're pretty good.
But it's funny. The fourth quarter, they didn't score for about 6 minutes, but they still held on and won the game. So I think she can coach
she's a good coach. But
she had more Braun, she'd have a couple of more wins probably because she could. It's not easy losing your best player. So but I think she can coach. But she's a serious young basketball lady. I'll tell you that. Mm-hmm. Not what we'd call a quipster.
No, true. All my dealings with her have been good. But, I think
she's fine, but she doesn't want to. I made a couple jokes to her about Michigan Tech, and she says, "Is this what we're going to talk about?" No.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. She put me right there that we're going to talk X's and O's. So anyway. But I think they made a good hire there. But it's a lot easier in women's basketball than it is in men's to make the better hire. It's
a better job at the time, right? It's a better job.
Yeah. The men's job right now is awful. It's awful. And what do you think it costs to maintain that place a year or two?
Oh, geez.
It's unbelievable. I still say, what an attraction. We could build a grandstand like half a mile away, right? We get a grandstand, you pay so much money, and then the fighter jets come in and blow that damn thing up just from Duluth. Two of them come in, just not the big munitions, the smaller ones. It's just kind of.
You got to be pretty precise. There's a lot of stuff around there, Patrick.
This is what we got. It fraternity row might end up getting wiped out too, but that'd be okay.
Collateral damage, that'd be okay.
Some of those buildings, man, there's some things. If those buildings could talk, there'd be something. Wouldn't it? Those old buildings at fraternity row. But
I guess we would have to decide. We could set up a perimeter, what we can afford to lose, what we want to keep, things like that.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. They got serious financial problems over there, man. I wonder what sports are going to survive here when this thing's over.
Yeah, well, is it next year? They got to start the whole
At 21 million, except they still the NCAA's got to get the court and try to get it overturned that half the money goes to Title IX.
Right.
I think that they can find the right judge now and get it overturned. Because 18 of the 21 was going to go to football, right?
Right. Or like 80%, something like that.
Yeah.
Now it's
now it's supposed to be 50-50, but I haven't seen them. Somebody told me that at the NCAA meetings, they had the big NCAA thing a couple weeks ago. The only topic was, what can we do that we won't get sued? What changes can we make that won't lead to a lawsuit?
Yeah.
So, that's all they're worried about now. Their power is non-existent right now, and every time they go to court, they lose. So.
Yeah,
I don't know what's the future of having a 352 or 362 team Division I in basketball. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We like the dance and all that stuff, but I think that I don't know what's going on here. And they're talking about expanding the tournament, which would be really stupid, because then what bracket am I going to fill out now? I got to have a bracket. I got to get I got to get a broadsheet to fill out my bracket. So I don't know. They're the Gophers are. I'm Ben. I don't know if Ben can coach or not. Who knows? He's never had the players.
No, never gets to have his own team for more than a year. Never gets to do that. Hey, before we go, we should find out today. We don't want to talk too much about it because it could be any time, but we should find out today about the Wolves ownership stuff. I'll probably do a special podcast once we know that, but man, it'd be nice to have that thing resolved, because it's just been kind of hanging over them. And every time they make a move, they're like, well, yeah, you also have to consider who's going to be owning the team. And they're on a good real run right now, playing the Cavs tonight. They had a good win without Ant and Conley and all the other guys the other night, but it'll be nice to have a resolution, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I would guess that both sides are ready for that too, and get it over with and make your adjustment. And I don't think it'll have a huge impact on the franchise. The only thing is, I think if Laurie and Rodriguez win, the need to build a arena will come up quicker.
Yeah.
It's going to come up with, if Mr. Taylor wins too, it's going to come up here in the next year or two. I mean, Target Center
35 years old.
Is it the oldest in the NBA now? I think it is.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's up there.
And it was built stupidly in the first place, with 60% of the seats upstairs instead of downstairs.
Right.
So, let's put in the cheap seat. Nobody builds a stadium now thinking about, well, you know what we need here? More cheap seats.
Right. That's a good point.
That's not the philosophy now. Is what little go to the new dome and see all these little cubby holes that they have where they can charge you, instead of charging you a mediocre $200 a game, they'll charge you $400 a game. In these, so it's a poorly built stadium. The only trouble is, if that place goes dark where it is on First Avenue there, the impact on downtown Minneapolis is going to be unbelievable. I don't know what you do, though. Because if they build a new one in the city, they're going to want a bigger footprint, right?
I would think so.
They want a bigger footprint. What do you do with this place?
I don't know.
You can't have it. It can't exist anymore. I don't, and there's no use. There's no use for it, so I think you just tear it down. I don't know what.
Can you convert Target Center into housing?
Yeah, right. That's what everybody else is. That's what That's what's happening at all our neighbor downtown. Our neighbor down the Ameriprise building is going to be an apartment building. So that's there's things going on, and but here's my fear. Okay, I'm going to throw this out there, that that you get A-Rod and Lori, and they say, maybe we should go out there by the Vikings and build something in Egan.
Yeah.
And, the public might love that and everybody else, but it'd be a disaster for downtown Minneapolis.
It would. It would. And it works for the Vikings because they don't play their games there. They can train there. That's fine. Yeah. But if they build it.
But and the other thing is, we can't really afford another disaster downtown. That's for sure. So anyway, I don't know what to do here.
The thing you got with the Wolves already, though, is they got that nice practice facility right there. So
it's hard to imagine.
Hard to imagine them packing up and going and then leaving that there because they put a lot of money into that, and it's really nice. So we'll see. Yeah. Selfishly, they can come to Egan. They can come follow me out to Egan. That'll be okay. We'll be out here, and we could go watch them in Egan. But yeah, it would not be good for downtown. I don't think that's the play for them. I think they want to stay there in that spot.
No, I like being 4 miles away from Target Field and Target Center. So
yes, you do.
Out here in beautiful Golden Valley. So I like that. So anyhow, I guess we will find out today, and we all can get on with our lives here. Then whoever owns it. Certainly if Lori and A-Rod have Bloomberg in on it, there's plenty of money in there to build most of your own new arena, right? I mean,
yeah, I would think so.
What farmers, the one thing you heard about is a farmers market site down there where we should have had the soccer stadium, a bike lane. Right. Betsy didn't worry more about bike lanes. Then that's why Donald Trump is president of the United States, don't you? Right now, and getting cheered mightily. Bike lanes. That's why. Bike lanes. You think we would have had all these bike lines if the Trumpeter would have been president for 4 years? No. That's my political rant for the day. You could have had the soccer stadium, and instead we got 12 more. We got a big bike lane on 55, which now makes that gridlock too, just like 394 is. I'd like to find the morons who thought that was a good idea. Unbelievable. And I have seen at least 2 bikes though in my 100 trips down 50. At least 2-3 bikes. One every 2-3 weeks. You go down there, you see one, and when you're driving on 55, you see a bike. Maybe once a month. So
you're gonna get
that was a good idea.
You're gonna get the bike people after you, Patrick. I like to ride my bike, but I'm not a bike person. I'm not. I don't classify myself as that. You're gonna get that is an aggressive lobby. Is all I'm saying. You watch out. You're gonna get them after you.
I know it. Who died and made them God? That's what I want to know. All right. See you later. Before I get in trouble here, I want to watch myself here.
You're good. You're good.
I'm riding the fence right now to be in trouble. So see you later.
Thanks, Patrick. Bye-bye.